The deeper you go, the less the rules protect you. Sector 4 wasn't built to be understood. It was built to be contained. Tonight, Elias is being sent closer to the source, closer to the files that were never meant to be read. Some voices only call from the basement, and when they do, they already know your name. This is episode 3, the basement call. The elevator didn't have buttons. It only had a brass lever and a small, hand-painted sign that read, "Descent only." Elias stood inside the cramped metal box, his knuckles white as he gripped the handle of a heavy industrial-grade lantern Greaves had given him. The $800 check from the night before was tucked into his pocket, but the paper felt like a lead weight. The main booth is undergoing sanitization, Greaves had told him at the entrance. Tonight, you will monitor the archive from the sublevel for substructure. It's closer to the source. The rules have evolved. Greaves had handed him a piece of cardboard with jagged handwritten instructions scrawled in charcoal. The deep storage protocols. 1. The elevator. The elevator will not stop at level 4. It will stop at level 6. Do not get out. Wait exactly 3 minutes until the doors close. Reopen them manually to find level 4. 2. The Archivist. You will find a desk in the center of the room. A man will be sitting there with his back to you. This is the Archivist. He is busy. If he asks you to help him find a file, tell him the ink has run dry. 3. The breathing. Unlike the upper levels, the entities here do not hunt by sound. They hunt by heat. If the room temperature drops below freezing, turn off your lantern and curl into a ball. Do not move until you feel a warm breath on the back of your neck. That is the signal that they have passed. 4. The phone. The phone will ring once. It will be you. The you from tomorrow morning. Listen to what he says. If he is screaming, do not leave the facility at 6 a.m. The elevator groaned, the cables shrieking as it plummeted. The floor indicator skipped 4 entirely and landed on a 6. That looked like it had been scratched into the metal with a fingernail. The doors slid open. Outside was not a hallway, but a vast, infinite forest of black rotted trees growing out of a concrete floor. A thick gray mist swirled between the trunks. Elias stared, his heart hammering against his ribs. Every instinct told him to run into the woods, to escape the crushing weight of the facility above. He looked at his watch. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. A shape moved in the mist. It was tall and possibly tall, and wore a tattered yellow raincoat that hung off a skeletal frame. It didn't move toward him. It simply stood among the dead trees, watching. 2 minutes and 59 seconds. The elevator doors hissed shut, cutting off the view of the forest. Elias let out a shuddering breath and pulled the lever, and the doors opened again. He was in a small, circular room filled with towering filing cabinets that stretched up into the darkness. In the center of the room sat a lone wooden desk. A man sat there, hunched over a mountain of paperwork. He wore a tattered security uniform, the same one Elias was wearing, but decades older. The Archivist. He didn't turn around. The only sound was the frantic scratching of a quill pen on parchment. "Elias," the man whispered. His voice sounded like dry leaves skittering across a sidewalk. "I can't find the ledger for 1994. Arthur's file is missing. Could you look in the bottom drawer behind you?" Elias felt a cold shiver. He remembered Rule 2. "The ink has run dry," Elias said, his voice steadier than he felt. The scratching stopped. The Archivist's shoulders slumped. "It always does," he sighed. "Eventually, we all run out of ink." The man didn't speak again, but he began to rhythmically tap his quill against the desk. It sounded like a heartbeat. The temperature plunged. Elias saw his own breath bloom in a white cloud before him. The metal of the filing cabinets began to groan as frost bloomed across their surfaces. Rule 3. They hunt by heat. Elias fumbled for the switch on his lantern and clicked it off. The darkness was absolute, a heavy, suffocating weight. He dropped to the floor, curling into a tight ball, tucking his head between his knees. He tried to think of nothing. He tried to become a stone. The silence was broken by a soft, wet slithering. Something was moving through the aisles of filing cabinets. It was large, and it radiated a cold so intense it made Elias's teeth ache. He felt the entity pause beside him. He could hear it sniffing a long, wet intake of air that sounded like a vacuum. Stayed perfectly still, even when he felt a gossamer-thin finger trail along his shoulder. Then, a sudden, localized burst of heat. A hot, wet huff of air hit the nape of his neck. It smelled of ozone and ancient dust. The signal. Elias waited 5 minutes before relighting his lantern. The frost was gone. The archivist was still tapping his pen. The phone on the archivist's desk rang exactly once. The archivist didn't move. Elias slowly approached the desk, his hand trembling as he reached for the receiver. He pressed it to his ear. Static. Then a voice. It was his own voice. It was older, tired. "Elias," the voice said from the future. "Listen to me. When you leave today, don't take the main road. The Yellow Raincoat is waiting at the gate. Take the service trail through the woods." And Elias, the voice on the other end, began to laugh. It wasn't a human laugh. It was a rhythmic, mechanical sound, like a printer jammed on a single page. "The check," the future Elias whispered. "Don't look at the back of the check." The line went dead. The elevator returned Elias to the surface. Mr. Greaves was waiting by the exit, holding a white envelope. "A difficult night," Greaves noted, eyeing the frostbite on Elias's fingertips. "But you're becoming quite the professional." He handed Elias the envelope. Elias didn't open it until he was safely in his car. Written in dark, black ink, the same ink the archivist had been using, were 4 words. "You are still downstairs." Elias looked in his rearview mirror. Behind him, standing in the middle of the gravel parking lot, was the man in the yellow raincoat. Wasn't grinning anymore. He was pointing toward the main road. Elias gripped the steering wheel, shifted into gear, and steered the car toward the narrow, overgrown service trail in the woods. As he drove, he looked at his hands. They looked paler, almost translucent, like wet parchment. Elias survived the night. At least the version of him that came back did. Because once the archive starts writing you into its records, leaving doesn't mean you're gone. If you want to hear the next call, if you want to know what happens when Elias stops following the rules, subscribe and turn on notifications. The deeper levels are waking up. And Sector 4 doesn't like being ignored.